Hello, everyone. My name is Rafael Fernandez. I'm a senior solution engineer on the partner technical enablement team, and I'm here with a colleague of mine, Jay Rajamahon. Jay, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jay Rajmohan. I'm a system architect with the Partner Technical Enablement team.
And Jay and I are here today to talk to you about how you can build products with ArcGIS, specifically common patterns and cloud deployment architectures around using Esri's technology. So for many of you, you may have already seen some of these slides and some of this context, but we want to just give you some brief context before we dive into the discussion. We have partners and developers who do work in several different sort of modes. We have partners and developers who produce products or solutions, who extend ArcGIS desktop, web, and mobile solutions. These are really that first pattern that we're seeing there, extend. We have partners and developers who embed ArcGIS capabilities into their solutions, where they're looking to leverage identity or advanced capabilities. We have partners who deliver content through ArcGIS to other organizations, whether that's vector, raster, real-time data. And then finally, we have partners and developers who do provide services. And those services can be around consulting, implementation services, project work, or managed services of managing GIS environments. Today, the place that we're really going to focus is on extending ArcGIS and embedding ArcGIS capabilities into your solutions. So where we're going to start is talking about extended. So what we think about when we talk about extend or we think about this extend pattern, what we see is that this is, first of all, for both developers and partners. But what this is for is really for customers who are used to and comfortable using ArcGIS-centric workflow. This allows you partners and developers to really take customer licenses and deploy in the customer's environment the solutions that they need. That may enhance their workflows. It may be a customization of ArcGIS desktop or a configuration of a web app or a mobile app. And this is accessible to all customers. So for you as a developer or a partner, you can actually begin to find a customer's implementation of ArcGIS and really take it to the next level by providing solutions to them. So what do we mean by us providing a solution or extending ArcGIS desktop? When we think about desktop, Esri has gone through a couple iterations of different desktop tools. Our latest desktop tool that we have is Arcgis Pro. And within Pro, you as a partner or developer have the ability to do a couple different things. You can extend analysis tools through geoprocessing by building your own geoprocessing tools through Python, through Model Builder, and integrating with other systems like R. You can build an add-in within ArcGIS Pro with the Pro SDK, where you might have a configured workflow for a partner or for a customer, so that the customer can have that streamlined workflow in the UI that they're used to through ArcGIS Pro. And then finally, you even have the ability to use the Pro SDK to configure the entire UI of ArcGIS Pro so that your customers can really have a streamlined workflow within that GIS environment. And finally, you'll always have the opportunity to build your own custom desktop applications, whether that's using our Java runtime, our .NET, or Qt. So this is what we really mean when we talk about extending. It's really around either deploying your own desktop app, configuring Pro, building an add-in, or extending analysis tools through geoprocessing. When we think about web, what we're talking about is really the ability to take the web tier, the web applications, and deliver that to a customer in a streamlined workflow. Now, you can begin by doing this if you haven't started yet today by building on top of the solutions that are available in solutions.arcgis.com. We manage these solutions for specific industries, and those solutions will get those industries up and running quickly. We also have this tool called Web App Builder. And Web App Builder allows you to build your own custom application and widgets to then be able to provide a specific web workflow for your customers. And this is all configurable. You don't have to code if you don't want. You can obviously extend Web App Builder if you need to. Now, the next iteration of Web App Builder is called Experience Builder. Experience Builder is the evolution of Web App Builder, and it's built on our JavaScript 4x API. And now you can build multiple experiences, whether that's on a desktop app, whether that's on the desktop or mobile, or working through a web browser as well. You can also build your own custom applications through the JavaScript API as well. Now, the final place for you to extend ArcGIS is really by extending our mobile apps. One of the best ways to understand what's going on with mobile apps is to understand sort of that mobile workflow, whether that's from planning, navigating, understanding what's going on in an area, capturing data, and then monitoring that data. You can build your own custom application through the runtimes and then link to the mobile application that Esri has. That app linking scheme allows you as a partner to streamline the connections, or allows you to connect to the Esri apps so you don't have to maintain the same amount of code base. And so you can have your secret sauce in your mobile application and then really leverage the Esri components through in their application. A thing to note about the field apps is that we have a new field application called ArcGIS Maps, and that also provides the ability for you as partners or developers to app link to as well. Now, when we think about extending ArcGIS, this is the architecture we've put together. And Jay, I'm going to let you, or not architecture, excuse me, how to add capabilities to a customer's GIS. I'm going to let Jay sort of take it on from here.
Thanks, Raf. As Raphael said, extending a customer's ArcGIS, you are essentially adding new capabilities or offering a new user experience to the customer. Since it's a customer's ArcGIS, we don't want to get into the architecture, instead focus on how your app or offering will reach the customer. So let's start with the Pro add-in. The Pro add-in that you develop, you'll have to deliver that to the customer so that they can install it locally and use it. The widget you create using Experience Builder is slightly different from how you build a typical web app and deliver to customers. So we just wanted to call it out. So when you build a widget using Experience Builder, you have to host it in a web server. Then you register that with the customer's portal, whether it's Arcgis Online or Arcgis Enterprise. And then the customer can include that widget into their application. When it's a mobile app, you host them in the respective app stores, and the customer can download it to their mobile device. And by using the app link option, you can initiate a data collection workflow in ArcGIS field maps, or just view it on a map. It's that simple. But overall, the whole ArcGIS system is controlled using what we call Arcgis Identity, and in some shape or form, whether it's Arcgis Pro, Arcgis Online Enterprise, or the mobile, whichever component you work with, there's Arcgis Identity. In Arcgis Pro, there is one other option, like your identity or access is controlled using the license manager. All right, Raf, back to you, please.
Thanks, Jay. That was great. So to provide you sort of some highlights and a recap of extending ArcGIS, there's a couple of different options for you as partners and developers to really do this work. What you're doing is you're building on top of the customer's licenses and their current infrastructure. This provides you the ability to access all Esri customers because what you're using is their existing licenses to deliver your solution. You can also enhance the customer's GIS and user's experience. Now, if you're looking for places to start, we'd recommend that you start with Arcgis Pro by building an add-in or geoprocessing tools. From a web tier, we'd want you to actually work at extending an ArcGIS solution or building a custom widget, maybe even building a web app or experience builder app as well. And then for mobile, it's really about introducing and including the Esri applications into your mobile solutions through that app linking schema. Now let's go into some more details about the next pattern we want to talk about, which is embed. We're not going to be talking about content or services today. That's outside of the scope of this presentation. So embedding ArcGIS capabilities. When we think about embedding ArcGIS capabilities, there's really three models for this. There's the ArcGIS platform, which we've heard a lot about lately. There's identity, and there's advanced capabilities. So if you're going to use a platform, you can save development time by embedding ArcGIS capabilities to solve your spatial problems. You don't need to build your own logic or code base. You can just call it through the platform. When it comes to identity, you can use ArcGIS Identity to control access and secure data and information through ArcGIS. And then when we think about these advanced capabilities, we're talking about is embedding ArcGIS into your own SaaS solution or on-premises solution as well. Now, platform is for developer and partners. Identity really requires partnership, and advanced capability also requires partnership. So as I mentioned, there's sort of a pattern involving each one of these. So ArcGIS Platform is really a great entry point if you're looking to leverage location services and use API keys. When you're using Identity, it provides you access to GIS mapping and location services using our Identity, which has a different business model than using the API keys. So that might be really acceptable or something that partners are looking for. From advanced capabilities, what we're doing is we're embedding ArcGIS server technology or Esri SaaS into workflows for you partners to deliver your own SaaS solutions. When we think about platform, what we're really talking about is this new platform for ArcGIS. You get access to it through the developer subscription, and it provides you access to build with location services, whether that's content or capabilities. Some of the content that's available to you in the first release is base maps, geocoding, routing, points of interest, and demographics. The capabilities that are in there are data hosting, geo-enrichment, and really sharing information through that. This is available for both partners and developers today. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Jay.
So let's explore ArcGIS platform through common workflow, like adding location services to a CRM application. For example, you in a CRM, you can get the maintenance request address or customer address. Like you can visualize the locations after geocoding them or get driving directions if depending on your application. Essentially, you are geo-enabling an application or a system. It's simple, it's limited location services requirements, and it's a perfect candidate for ArcGIS platform. So you can use ArcGIS platform, which is the platform as a service offering from Esri, right, to deliver these capabilities to end user. The customer don't require ArcGIS or ArcGIS Identity. The whole system is unaware of ArcGIS. How you do that is through developer subscription. You can log into the developer environment in ArcGIS and then create an API key and add the capabilities you want, associate that with the API key, now embed that API key into your application, the JavaScript app or however you want to package it. Then your application will get or start invoking the location services capability depending on the user experience, and the user never get challenged for ArcGIS credentials when they use it. It's that simple. Back to you, Raf.
Thanks, Jay. That was great. So you can see how platform would be something that was really interesting for certain developers and partners to really begin to use some of those capabilities. And that was a great example of how this architecture could be implemented. We're going to go into more details about how you can actually implement this architecture by giving you a real-world example here in a couple slides. The next pattern is really by embedding ArcGIS capabilities or using ArcGIS Identity in your solution. And here we come with a couple different identity levels. We have light, basic, standard, and advanced. And your partner apps can be added to these different capabilities, providing you the ability to provision access or revoke access with these different user types. Now, these user types don't come with Esri applications, and if you would want to add those Esri applications, you can always add them or add them as app bundles. So what comes with each individual user type? So for partner user types, Light comes with the ability to view, and it comes with 0 credits, and it comes with the runtime Light level. You have specific add-ons that you can add on to to your partner user types like ArcGIS Online Credits, Esri Apps and App Bundles, user type extensions, and then location services. And you can see all those location services that are available to you there. These are not necessarily the same location services that are open to you through the platform. There are actually a few more and a couple that aren't in the platform as well. Basic comes with the ability for you to view and edit, and with ArcGIS Online Credits with the basic runtime. Standard comes with view, edit, and authoring capabilities with 500 credits and the standard runtime, and advanced comes with view, edit, and author with 500 credits and the advanced runtime for some additional analytical tools that you might need from runtime. Now, the way that you provision access to this environment or to these user types is by getting access to an ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise environment. To get access to that, we actually provision that to you as a partner at no cost. And so you get access to Enterprise or Online, and then you have the ability to provision access to your end customers with these different user types. You manage these environments, the Enterprise and Online. You then provide access to ArcGIS components, and it supports identity providers like SAML and OID Connect, and then user authentication through OAuth, just like the rest of the industry standard. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Jay to talk to you about two different architectures around this.
Right. So let's explore the purpose of identity through a simple pothole reporting tool. Right? So in such a tool, the citizen should be able to report potholes anonymously. Then a city employee, a manager kind level, have to verify it and flag it, to say, okay, what kind of material, like whether it's asphalt, concrete, those kind of level. And a dashboard for city managers to get an overview. All of these can be packaged into your solution. So this workflow requires more than simple location services capability. The solution should accept data, process it, and provide some visual results. Right? It requires identity for some parts of the workflow, and others are open to public. Both ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise can meet these requirements. The need for ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise depend on solution and the hosting requirements for each individual implementation. As you know, ArcGIS Enterprise can be deployed to your on-prem infrastructure or to your subscription in AWS or cloud platforms. To be 100% clear, ArcGIS Enterprise can be deployed on any supported versions of Windows or Linux virtual machines from any cloud provider. The difference is Esri support, the AWS and Azure platforms. Our support go beyond a typical virtual machine, and we support some of the PaaS offerings like Azure's Blob Store or AWS S3 bucket, or their database as a service offering from either of those. So before jumping into cloud deployment architectures, one nuance I would like to call out is that when you embed ArcGIS in your solution, you must use partner user type as the licensing vehicle to implement ArcGIS Identity. Now, let's switch to cloud architecture. I'm starting with AWS, going alphabetically. So in a production environment, we always recommend installing ArcGIS components in different virtual machines. In the pattern here, we have an ArcGIS, the web adapter in public subnet along with your application. The rest of ArcGIS Enterprise components are in private subnets, and the data stored in its own subnet. And this is where the data subnet is where you would bring if you had a relational database and register with ArcGIS server. Splitting our components into different subnets and applying different security groups or security access control offers a good degree of separation to help the security of your solution. Now, switching to Azure, due to time constraints, switching to Azure, I'm going to Due to time constraint, I'm going to go through part of the key aspects in AWS slide and the rest in Azure. I'm going to split between them. Right? So in Azure, one difference you may notice is like we are using Application Gateway. You don't have to use it, but Azure Application Gateway can replace ArcGIS Web Adapter. In this diagram, let's explore the administration aspects of these deployments. As a solution provider, your staff will need admin access to the VMs you deploy wherever it is, right? In cloud platforms, it's recommended to use a Bastion host or a jump box in a separate virtual network for administration tasks. By limiting access to the boxes, to the virtual machines that host your application or ArcGIS through the admin network, you are enhancing the security of your cloud deployment immensely. Also, one good thing about having your standalone virtual network for admin tasks, you can manage all your deployments scattered across various virtual networks across different regions. Right? So to me, that's a very great aspect. Keep in mind the general concepts we discuss here applies to both Azure and AWS platforms equally. Back to you, Raf.
Thanks, Jay. So now the last sort of pattern that we see partners sort of jumping into or using ArcGIS for embedding is advanced capabilities. And here partners can use different technologies and different sort of environments to provide information or advanced capabilities to their customers. So Esri SaaS can be used, Esri SaaS ArcGIS Online can be used to provide access to real-time big data and vector data through ArcGIS Velocity and premium data stores on top of ArcGIS Online. You can also use Esri server software like GIS server, image server, Geoevent server, geoanalytics server in AWS or Azure to provide your customers access to vector imagery, real-time, or big data. We see partners actually using this technology and embedding it into their solutions so that they can augment their solutions as well. And just like the previous ones, let's go into a little bit more details about the architecture for this.
Yeah, thanks, Raf. So for advanced capabilities, like let's assume your solution offer operational overview of all the snow plows in action during a snowstorm, right? So that's a typical workflow. Here you have to ingest real-time data from snowplows, like where they are, what is the speed, whether the salt dispenser is on or off, plow is up or down, and also you want to analyze them, right? Alert the driver if they are entering an icy patch, flag the plow, whether if the plow is not moving, if it's idling at the same location to see whether they need help, right? Color code streets when it was based on when it was last plowed, right? Those kind of different requirements. Above all, and also show results of all of these as dashboards for the operation command center, regional command centers. This certainly require advanced GIS capabilities. In our SaaS offering, we have Velocity for real-time data ingestion and analytics. Velocity is an extension to ArcGIS Online, and all data and results you create are available to you as layers in your ArcGIS Online. You can embed these layers and maps or apps in your solution that you provide to the customer. Similarly, when Geoevent server, which is part of the server software, it's similar to the SaaS offering, all the data and results you create out of Geoevent server are available as layers and maps and web apps to your solution. Please note again, you must use the partner user type as the licensing vehicle to implement ArcGIS Identity when you embed ArcGIS capability in your solution. Let's switch to the deployment pattern of ArcGIS Enterprise in cloud in the real-time environment. real-time workflows. Continuing from the previous architecture slides you saw, I'm not going into I'm going to focus on the Geoevent component or the real-time component of the architecture. In this pattern, Geoevent is federated to Arcgis Enterprise. When federated, customer access the services published from Geoevent through Arcgis Enterprise. So folks who are familiar with Geoevent may think like they are familiar with a Geoevent manager accessing, or you access that through port 6143. That's a typical known port for the Geoevent. But what I want to call out or bring to your attention is that is an admin port. You should do that through the Bastion host. You should manage that port. You should never, I shouldn't say never, you should not open that to the public. You should restrict access to that. By eliminating the need to, or by blocking the access to the admin ports, you are securing your platform. You want to keep a tight control over all the ports that are accessible externally to the internet. And now switching to Azure, here also it's the same model, right? Everything that we talk in AWS apply equally in Azure too. But in this slide, let me focus on the spatiotemporal data store. So when you deploy spatiotemporal data, the big data store, we recommend to deploy it in odd numbers. When the data is critical, you want to have at least 3 of them. Right? BDS is a distributed system, so they function better when you have odd number of nodes. Also, a few other considerations you want to keep in mind are use spatiotemporal big data store when the data ingestion is at a high velocity. If it's at a slower rate, you might as well write it to the hosted feature service, or you can bring your own database and write to a feature service of that. Before we switch to the next section, I want to let you know that we have more architecture diagrams posted in the partner community. Please check them out and let us know. Back to you, Raf.
Thanks, Jay. And so for this next section, what we're going to do is really talk through sort of a demonstration. We're not going to show you the demonstration due to time constraints and the amount of time that we have left on this session. But what we want to talk about is sort of the back-end infrastructure and sort of the processes that are happening behind the scenes in this demonstration. And what we're talking about in the initial section is really using location services and Arcgis platform to access some features, using identity as a second pattern, and then the third using some advanced capabilities and specifically Geoevent server, excuse me. So with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Jay, and he's going to talk to you all over through sort of these workflows.
Thanks, Raf. So as Raf said, these are all scenarios that we heard earlier, but we are going to talk through from a perspective or using conceptual diagrams. So let's start with the scenario here. The workflow is a typical maintenance request, right? With increasing GIS requirements on each level. Starting with a simple one, let's assume that you have a web application that's using the Arcgis JavaScript API, and where the user can upload the service location data or the into the web application, and the purpose of the app is to generate driving directions for them. So let's assume to make it all simple here, the user uploads a GeoJSON file with the location information, then the app takes it and generates driving directions. It's a very simple location services application with very minimal spatial capabilities. All you're doing is generating driving directions and putting them on base maps to put the directions on top of. So this is a perfect requirement that can be serviced using Arcgis platform. To implement Arcgis platform in your application, you have to log into your developer account, generate the API key, and when you generate the API key, you can associate what kind of location services capabilities you want tied to that API key. Then once you are all the things set, you just apply that API key to your JavaScript code. When the location services capability is invoked by the application, the API, the JavaScript API will attach the API key to all the calls to ArcGIS platform. So this will help ArcGIS to know whether this is an authorized request, and if so, like, okay, which account should that request be metered against? Best of all, right, the end user will never get challenged for ArcGIS credentials, even though they are using ArcGIS as secure services or capabilities and tools. Now, switching to, turning the next one.
Sorry, Jay. Thank you.
So now, turning the dial a few notches up, switching a more slightly more complex or requirement. Here, let's explore the same maintenance request workflow, but with additional requirements, some capabilities based on a user persona. Here, the requirement is the app should allow a citizen to create maintenance requests anonymously. Then a dispatcher or a manager, can review the request and then assign it to a worker. And the worker get the list of active requests and its location, and then they can find the driving directions and get the directions. And finally, after they service the account, the request, they can close after working on it. Right? So that is the requirement. So here, the requirement is more than what a location services can provide. Here you're asking to create or update a feature service, then different capabilities based on the user identity or the user persona. This requires either an ArcGIS Online or an ArcGIS Enterprise and the identity-based access control. The conceptual diagram here walks you through various persona and how their access to the data is controlled. Behind the scenes, it's all based on a single feature layer with different views, supporting different workflow and different access control. So different user will have access to different components in there. Now, let's look at the scenario using the advanced ArcGIS capability with the real time. Here, the requirement of the app is now the citizen should be able to not create the request anonymously, but this time, instead of somebody having to manually assign the request to a worker, we want an automated process to find the nearest worker to a service request location and assign it to that worker. This requires advanced ArcGIS capability. Essentially, the real-time tool for the server component is Geoevent, and we need that to make it work. Or we can actually use the SaaS offering Velocity, but just for this demo or this conceptual walkthrough, we are using Geoevent as a tool. So Geoevent can be configured to poll the feature services for maintenance request. So when a citizen submit a request, Geoevent, by polling, it can sends a new request, and then you can do simple buffering and simple spatial processing to identify who is the nearest worker, right? And then through that process, you can assign that request to the worker. So the conceptual diagram here explains how the workflow happens, all the technical requirements behind it. Again, similar to the previous scenario, it's all based off a single feature service and different views and different access control. Hope that was helpful. Back to you, Raf.
Thanks, Jay. And we're getting close to the time, so Some of the highlights here are really for you as partners and developers to embed ArcGIS capabilities to solve spatial problems through ArcGIS platform, to use identity controls to access and secure ArcGIS with ArcGIS Identity to your apps, and then embed your own embed server software into your own SaaS or on-premises solutions. The best place for you to start, if you haven't started doing any of this yet, is really to sign up for a developer subscription, to use the platform, and to get access to the software so that you can begin identifying what solution you want to build. And with that, please provide your feedback on the session by clicking on the survey link below the video, and we'll see you over in the questions area. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you enjoyed the session today. Seems like we've got pretty active feed over in the Q&A area, so we've got a fair amount of questions. If you have any additional questions that you haven't asked yet, please send them in here. We are monitoring it, and let's get started, Jay. So I think the first question that I see here is somebody was asking if they can replace GIS server with a web adapter, or are both separate capabilities, and are they both needed in architecture?
Yeah, hi. So GIS server and web adapters are two different components, right? So a GIS server is the engine that makes your services work, like that takes your data and publish it as a service. Web adapter is more a connector from your web server to translate the request back to GIS server or to portal. So GIS server is essential. Web adapter can be replaced by network devices.
Okay, thanks, Jay. Here's another one. Dan, wants to build a custom widget using Experience Builder and provide clients access who only have access to ArcGIS Online and don't have Enterprise. Is it possible for them to deliver that without installing Experience Builder, the developer edition?
Yes, so the customer doesn't need to have Experience Builder or the Experience Builder, the developer edition. That's for you to develop custom application, the developer edition, right? So how you deliver it is not dependent on whether they have Experience Builder developer edition. It's just like you may host it as a web app and then share it with the customer. Right? So to answer your question, no, they don't need the Experience Builder developer edition.
And it seems like Dan had another question here too. He wants to make sure that if he's developing against ArcGIS platform, if he can have customers access hosted feature services using their own named user. So essentially have a customer bring their named user license to his application.
So customer, so you, and I'm not clear on that question. So if it's using platform and named user, they are two different things. Yes, you can build an application that has both. Like you can use the API keys to go use your web, the base maps and those or the location services capabilities, and also to have the customer use their named user to consume their services from their ArcGIS Online. Assuming that's the question.
I think that's how I read that question, Jay. So
okay.
Essentially, Dan, to answer your question, yes, you can have a customer bring their own identity to an application that you're using, that you've built using ArcGIS platform, and by doing so, essentially, what the customer would be doing is authenticating against that named user. They'll be able to bring in their own feature services. They'll be able to access their ArcGIS Online environment, and then really bring some other capabilities along with that named user identity, to the point that Jay was kind of getting to. Here's another question about sort of web adapters, Jay. Is it possible to deploy Portal for ArcGIS in Azure without a web adapter? And then what would you say there?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to give us a little bit more detail there?
Even our cloud builder, when you deploy it, yeah. So the web adapter is an optional component, like it's essentially on, except for certain scenarios, the web adapter works as a reverse proxy, whereas in Azure, like when we deploy it using our cloud builder, we don't even deploy web adapter. We use the Azure app gateway to work as the web adapter, to proxy the request back. So to answer your question, you can use web adapter if you want, but if you don't have to, you can just replace that with the app gateway.
Could they use, so here's the second part of that question. Could they use the Azure load balancer?
By load balancer, if it can do path-based forwarding like the app gateway, yeah, you can use that.
Okay. Thanks, Jay. And then there's a lot of questions still coming in. Sorry about that. Somebody was wondering, how do they get access to the basic licenses for ArcGIS Runtime SDK? They want to use navigation on a mobile runtime SDK, and they're looking for that API. And how do they license that, and what's the payment for that? So I think there's two options for you to as a developer, and then one option as a developer, one option as a partner. So as a developer, what you can do is you can buy a runtime deployment pack and get access to that and begin to build against the deployment pack and those licenses. As a partner, what we've done is actually given you the ability to embed those partner user types that we were talking about previously in the slide deck. And those partner user types actually allow you to license the runtime as well. And so if you were to deploy your own solution using partner user types, using enterprise or online, then you could use that user type to essentially get access to that runtime SDK and that license and work against that for your customers. So that's, do you have anything else to add there, Jay?
No, that's it.
And then I have somebody who asked just a simple question. Matthew just asked when he downloaded this PDF for the session, he didn't see the architecture slides and they were missing. We'll follow up with our events team to see if we can get the architecture slides into the PDF so that you all have access to them. If they're not there, please just send us an email. We can get you the architecture slides. And the other thing I'd say is that, as Jay mentioned in the session, we do have these architecture slides available to our partners through partner community, and hopefully we'll be able to get them more available to you guys as developers as well, so that you can begin to use them in the future. If you don't get those, email me, rfernandez, my name, first initial, last name, at esri.com, and we'll make sure we get those to you. So here's somebody asking, how do I embed a web app or dashboard app in a custom application without having to use users prompted login? Can I use an API key for this purpose? If so, how? So I think this is an interesting question because there's a couple of things being mixed together here. Jay, do you want to take a stab at answering that?
Right. So the web app or the, sorry, for dashboard, right, behind the scenes, it's using ArcGIS feature services, right? So so that's typically hosted in ArcGIS customer or ArcGIS, the customer ArcGIS online organization. So when you take data from there, you cannot use the API keys. You have to use named users. But if you are hosting your data as a developer in your platform, right, that data can be used, and you can kind of use your own apps, or like you can use any of our APIs to build your own custom apps to visualize that, and using the API keys. So if it's a customer, services from customers ArcGIS online, you need named user. If it's data that you host as your data in your developer account, that can be visualized through API keys.
Perfect. Thank you, Jay. And I have another question here. Somebody just wanted to make sure, do they need to be a partner to be able to access PaaS or the platform as a service, or is that available to everyone, Jay?
The PaaS is available to anybody who sign up in our developer website. So that's as we you register or sign up in our developer website, and that is accessible to you right away. You don't have to be a partner.
So then somebody's also looking for a couple strategies to hide their API keys from the visibility of the end user. Jay, do you want to jump in there too?
Right. So the API key, that is the beauty of API key is it's simple, but it's also, as you noted there, like it's visible. So an option for you to do that would be to have a a custom server side component where you take in all the requests, and and from there you send the request back to Arcgis using the API key. So the customer never see the API key. It's always behind the scenes. So that is one strategy. Another thing is you can give the API key, and there is no restriction on how many API keys you can create, right? So you can decide programmatically to change the or set the lifespan of the API key, expire it in an hour or every day, and use the new API key in your program. Yeah, there are different ways for you to do that.
And then here's another good one. What's the easiest way for somebody to get access to PaaS?
Sign into our developer account, and it's that simple.
Yeah, just sign up, and essentially we'll ask you for a credit card because it's a consumption-based model for PaaS. And I think you're billed on a monthly basis for the utilization, and that's it. And I should also mention that there's a really generous free tier that allows you to get access to a lot of the software and the capabilities before you're ever even charged. And we even put out a great pricing calculator to identify how many hits, what that's going to look like, and how much you're going to get charged on that. And you'll see that at the top, in the top left, there's a little pricing tab there. Okay.
So if I see a question here saying no, does the JavaScript API has features that are limited in the version of Arcgis Online versus Arcgis Enterprise? No, the API is the same, right? So it's the same API. So what you have to recognize is all our capabilities, all the services are all exposed as REST endpoint. So what the JavaScript API does is a wrapper on top of the REST endpoint, right? So everything that is exposed through REST endpoint is available in the API, JavaScript API, and it's so there are certain capabilities that are not available in Arcgis Online, certain are not available in Enterprise. Those nuances, you deploy it, an additional GPs as notebook server in the local environment or Arcgis mission. You have the APIs there, but it's not available in Arcgis Online. But for all practical purposes, it's just a single API, and then it depends on what capabilities available in Arcgis Online versus Arcgis Enterprise determine how you use it.
So Jay, we also have Justin here asking us if we can talk a little bit more about app linking and what that looks like. Do you want to start, or do you want me to take a crack at that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so app linking is basically the ability for you to link out to a different Esri mobile application. And what we're doing is we're embedding some logic in a URL scheme that allows you to maybe pan and zoom on the map, center the map on your mobile device, and it just basically ties your application, your mobile app that you've developed with the runtime, with the Esri core application. And so if the customer has that named user login, they can log into that application automatically, and it'll basically put them in the right place. It could start a collection workflow if you're using field maps, something along those lines.
Yeah, even Navigator, that's used a lot, right? To get you directions and all of that. App linking is a great way to do that. It's nothing Esri special, right? It's the standard mobile app linking concept. We are leveraging the same in our offerings.
I've got a cheeky question here, Jay. How long before the free tier will no longer be free or that generous in pass? So I don't know how to answer that question. I think that free tier is the free tier. It's here to stay.
Yeah. So if you blow the free tier, that means you have a lot of usage. So that is good for you anyway. But will the numbers change? I don't think so. This is this is what we came out with. But how easily will you blow it? It's up to your usage. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the benefits of using platform, right? We're not charging developers or partners to actually use the technology. We're letting them build it and then have this sort of like baseline of usage. And then after that baseline is sort of met, then you start to get charged. And what that looks like there. So here's another question about platform. What capabilities does platform bring that's not available in ArcGIS Online or Enterprise?
So platform is a subset of ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, right? It's base maps, then geocoding, routing, and some analytics and all of that. It's the same capability that we have through Online or Enterprise. It's just we make it slightly different or easier for you to consume those capabilities and plug that into your application. So it's nothing new. It's just how you get to it. It's using the API key versus the named user, right? So those are the two different options. API key is making it easier for you to develop an application and embed some of these capabilities into it.
So Jay, I got two questions here. One that is, somebody wanted to make sure that ArcGIS could work on something outside of AWS if they're deploying it. So are there any other cloud platforms that we work with?
Right. So as we talked through this presentation, AWS and Azure are fully supported by us. Again, to be clear, if you have a VM, that we support, Windows or Linux with the versions that we support today, you can deploy ArcGIS in those VMs in any platform you want, right? It's not limited to AWS or Azure. The difference between AWS and Azure is in Azure, we previously talked about application gateway. We have tested that. You know how to use it. Our support team knows how to support you if you have a question. When you go to another platform, those level of support won't be there. It's just that we would say, oh, we are good with, if it's a VM, a supported VM, we are good with that deployment, any platform. But if you start using external load balancers or the local load balancer or cloud store, data store in those environments, there it could be different because we haven't tested it. That's all it means. But long story short, you can deploy ArcGIS Enterprise in any supported VM in any environment.
Yeah, I think the real crux of that is the triaging, as you were saying, Jay, and the additional support that Esri can provide you. And that if you want to stay close to the vest and sort of close to the chest on some of that, it would be AWS and Azure. It would be some recommended ones. But we do have some guidance for other cloud platforms. And I think one of the things that we're working on right now is actually putting out some guidance around deploying in the Google Cloud as well for some of our architectures, right, Jay?
Right. So we are working on that too. Absolutely. Yep. We don't have it now, but it's coming.
Good call. So then here's another question. Somebody's looking for templates on Azure with installations of ArcGIS Enterprise 10.8 and that are not specific to Enterprise Builder. So Jay, can you talk about the architectures that you've built and if they are specific to a certain version or not?
So the architecture is it's kind of universal, right? It doesn't. It's not limited to a version of ArcGIS Enterprise. To answer your question on Enterprise Builder, that's to build or deploy ArcGIS all in one. But if you go through our since you said AWS, if you go to our documentation, there are many ways to deploy in AWS, like Enterprise Builder. Then you are taking all of that and deploying it yourself, or you can use the cloud formation templates, the cloud builder, the AWS images we have out there. So you have numerous options out there. If you want to split it into different tiers and all of that, it's absolutely possible.
So here's a different type of question. I actually really like this. Alex writes that they're a consumer of Esri partner and developer applications, and they want to know what they, as consumers of these applications, should understand about the relationship between Esri and the partners, and just better understand some questions that maybe they should be asking their partners and developers. And what I would say, Alex, for that is one of the things that would be really beneficial for you as a consumer of ArcGIS and somebody who uses it day in, day out, is that partner developer, if they build an application that can leverage your identity instead of giving you another identity or another way to log in or leverage their solution, it's going to make your life easier because it's centralizing your ArcGIS environment and all of the components and leveraging what you've already invested in ArcGIS and not forcing you into a different sort of paradigm of logging in with a partner user type or leveraging a consumption-based model, but really allowing you to bring that investment that you've already had into ArcGIS. Jay, do you have anything else you want to add there?
Right, I believe so. What Raf is getting is the whole in the last 4 or 5 years, we talk a lot about what we call WebGIS. That's like, essentially you should have the same experience whether you come through the browser, through our desktop application, or through the field apps or any of that. Like, you consume the same service. Your identity is preserved throughout. So irrespective of how you collect the data, how you look at it, you get the same experience, right? So that's the whole platform view when we say WebGIS. And like, what Raf is saying, like you want to ensure that your service provider is offering you the same experience you would get if you were installing it locally, or like, if you are having the whole ecosystem available to you.
And here's another interesting one, Jay. And I know that this is new and hot off the press, and some exciting things are coming about this. But can we get into the Kubernetes in terms of architectures, patterns, any best practices for developers and partners?
I mean, you're in Dev Summit. Yeah. Yes. Follow our product team. Like, we have multiple sessions about Kubernetes. Absolutely, right? Like, that's the shiniest thing or the new thing that's coming out of our shop, or it's coming out in the next few weeks. But as a user, you need to know that, like, it's not for everybody, right? It's not for all users. So we are going to continue with Linux and Windows, and Kubernetes is the third offering that's coming from us, right? It's meant for people or environment that is using Kubernetes and that can leverage Kubernetes. So see whether that applies to you. If you are familiar with like, the technology, how to manage Kubernetes, then if you are comfortable with that, then ArcGIS Enterprise do have a role in there, right? But if you are a pure Windows or a Linux shop, then Kubernetes may not be the ArcGIS Enterprise on Kubernetes is not necessarily your right answer today.
And then we're kind of getting close to time, everyone. I know that we have about 2 minutes left or so. If we still have several questions to get through. If we did not get through your question, please send it to us in an email. Again, my email address is rfernandez, that's FERNANDES, @esri.com. And I will, Jay and I will follow up with you individually if we don't get your questions. Just wanted to make sure that you all have that. Somebody else is asking here is Experience Builder available for native app or just web app development, Jay?
It's for web app.
Yeah, I think there's a view for you to make your apps responsive so that you can see what it would look like on a mobile or on a mobile device or a tablet, but it's still a web application, right? And it's web based.
Yeah, it's a JavaScript application that, as Raf said, it can have different perspective, like, the mobile tab or web. Yeah, but it's essentially a JavaScript app.
Yeah, and that mobile tab is just really there for testing and validation, right? More than anything else to make sure that you have that usability. Cool. Let's see what else we got here. There's somebody here who has developed an Arcgis extension for asset management, and they do a lot of work with reporting in Arcgis Pro and ArcMap previously. They love the custom reports there, Jay, but they don't see that ability throughout the rest of the Arcgis sort of ecosystem and the applications. Is there any advice that we could give them on reporting essentially throughout ArcGIS?
So like all these options, the reporting options are available, or like it's in Arcgis Online, you have the options. Like in Arcgis Enterprise, you have to go through the logs and all of that. But through the APIs, whatever is not available today, please reach out to us. Then like we can go back to the product team and see whether we can expand on that for whatever is not available today. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say if you're looking to create a specific reporting workflow for asset management to understand where things are in some life cycle, that's a great opportunity for you as a partner or developer to build that tool and then leverage something like the Arcgis Marketplace, put it out there so that others can consume it and begin to use it. And so if that's something that you're interested in doing, please reach out and we can talk a little bit more about what that would entail too. And with that, everyone, I think we're at the bottom of the hour. We went a little bit over. Thank you for joining, and we look forward to your messages and your emails if we didn't get your question. Have a good day. Enjoy Dev Summit.
Thank you.
Cheers.